Okay, hey Civics. I am at TJ today, so I thought I'd go ahead and do my notes with you via video, and so you can still be caught up. First thing you need to do for Civics today is you need to finish the Section 3 reading. We did a lot of it yesterday. It looks like this in your binders. Make sure it says Section 3. Okay, when you get done with the reading and these 3 super short, super easy questions, you're going to go on to the back side, and there are some like vocab kind of questions. Super easy, shouldn't be a problem for you. Do that first, and then when you get done with that, then you can go on to the Section 2.2 notes. We are going to skip around a lot. I'm just pulling out the most important things for you to learn for Civics for the Constitution test. In your books, it's page 34. Page 34, Civics textbook, okay? The first government. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I've got some videos for you today. I've got some notes for you today. Mrs. Bullock will go through all this with you if you have any questions. It's literally 1 page of notes front and back. Half of the second page is summary. So on your summaries, I want 2 to 3 sentences about what you learned about today. Easy enough. Okay, so first thing you need to do, my computer fell asleep. First thing you need to do is log into Google Classroom, okay? Go to Google Classroom. You're going to add a new class, and it's Civics. I'll give you the code in just a second. Okay, so when you go to Google Classroom, you're going to type in this code right here, and I know you can't see it because it's super small, but it is D6ZJUO, not 0, OD. D6. Here, we'll take you on. Ooh, dizziness. Okay. D6ZJUOD. Okay, you're going to type that code in when you, after you click that little plus sign to add a new class. That is how you will get today's lesson. I'm not really sure why I'm telling you, because you can't watch this without putting that in already. In case you need to help a friend out, there you go. All right, next thing. Okay, the chapter 2.2 notes. You got my favorite YouTube star, Mr. Betts. Here's a little intro song for you. Everybody knows The Weeknd. Maybe we don't know The Weeknd. My MacBook hates me. Okay, well, I will put this on Google Classroom separately. Really bummed that's not working. Okay, so for your notes. Declaration of Independence. So I like to say the Declaration of Independence is the ultimate breakup letter. It's the ultimate breakup with Great Britain. Okay, so in your notes it says the Declaration of Human Rights. So if you look in your textbook, guess what? The headings go right along with your notes. So here's your A on your notes. Here is your little a, Declaration of Human Rights. Okay, and then we're going to find the info for your notes in these paragraphs here. All right, Declaration of Independence lists the reasons the colonies decided to separate from Great Britain and form an independent country. So, on your notes, you're going to put reasons. Ooh, let me get a different marker. Technical difficulties today. reasons the colonies decided to separate from Great Britain. Independent country. Okay, if I go too fast, you can always pause and pick up where I left off. Trying to get it so you can see it without that giant glare. Okay? Colonists believed the power of the government comes from the consent of the governed, the people of the country. My goodness. Today is not my day for technology. Okay, colonists believe that the power of the government comes from the consent of the governed. That means the people who follow the rules are the reason why the government works. Okay? The reason why people can be punished for stealing is because the people of our country know that stealing is wrong and that you should not do it. Therefore, it is illegal to steal. So the power of the government comes from the consent of the governed, the people who follow the rules. For the most part, people in our country follow the rules. Okay? So, human rights. That is a vocabulary term. It is highlighted yellow. It is the basic rights to which all people are entitled. Okay, the basic rights that all people are entitled to. Okay, in America, we know it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Students, your basic right is to learn in the least restrictive environment. Okay, there's basic rights that all people are entitled to. We call those human rights. The purpose of the government is to protect those human rights. Okay? The ideals of the American government. That is on page 35. It's the next red heading. Okay? Each person has an equal right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay? Everyone's entitled to those rights. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and erase this. If I'm moving too fast, just pause, get yourself caught up, and hit play again. All right, so the Articles of Confederation. This is on page 35, still under the blue heading. The Articles of Confederation. Congress adopted a plan. So the Declaration of Independence was not a plan or blueprint to provide a government a new country. The Declaration was the colonists' statement of grievances against the king. It listed their own reasons for creating their new government. So the next step came in 1777 when the Continental Congress adopted a plan of government, the Articles of Confederation. The Articles were approved in 1781 by the 13 states. The new government went into effect. When the Revolutionary War ended in 1783, the former colonies of Great Britain had won. They were now a confederation called the United States of America. So, plan of government. The Articles were approved in 1781 by the 13 states. At this time, we only had 13 states. Now we have 50. After the Revolutionary War in 1783, lost my spot. The former colonies of Great Britain had one. They were now a confederation called the United States of America. Okay, so under this, come on, page. A confederation, oh my goodness. A confederation is a loose association rather than a firm union of states. So it set up a firm league of friendship. So it set up we're going to call it a friendship. And friendship's in quotes, okay? Because it's not like they weren't forced to work together, but they did because they were friends, okay? So it's a friendship among the 13 states. At this time, the central or the national government had a very limited powers. Remember, they just broke up with Great Britain, who was, they felt were super bossy, and they kind of wanted their own thing. So the idea of central government wasn't their favorite, but they did need some overall national government, but it didn't have a whole lot of powers. Most of the powers at this time were still powered by the states. Okay, the states had their own powers. Remember when we talked, last time we did notes, we talked about the biggest community we belong to is our national government, and then it's states, and then it's cities, okay? So same idea then, just more so on the state end than the national end. It did create something called Congress, lawmaking body that was part of the national government. So it created Congress. We still have Congress now. It's a part of the legislative branch. Consists of the House of Representatives and the Senate. You're going to hear those terms a lot. And when those two are together, that's called Congress. Separately, they're the House and the Senate. Together, they're Congress. We have that on the national level and on the state level. Okay, so there's going to be different people. They're just different levels. With Congress, each state had one vote in Congress regardless of the number of people living in that state. The count of the number of people in an area, we call that the census. It's done every 10 years, and it just counts the number of people in an area. Okay, so during this time, Congress, each state had one vote, no matter how big or how small they were. Everything was equal. Okay, last one on this slide is sovereignty, or they wanted to preserve the state's sovereignty or absolute power. Absolute power. Absolute power. Okay, almost done. Just a little bit more. closely. Okay. Key powers. Okay, so the power to enforce national laws went to the states rather than the national government. Issues with that might be not all the states may not be consistent with their enforcement, but the power to enforce national laws went to the states rather than the national government. People thought of themselves as the citizens of the state rather than American citizens. They were very individual on the states, okay? So when somebody from another country asks you where you're from, you might say the United States. Back then they would say, I'm from Maryland, okay? They wouldn't say, oh, in the United States, okay? They would just say Maryland. States began to fight over boundary lines. And trade. Okay. So now how when you're a kid and you have to share a bedroom with your brother or your sister and you put that tape down the middle of the room to show your boundary line, it's kind of what the states were doing at this time. They also were arguing over trade. Who got the money, what could come in, what could go out, who was going to sell goods from different places. Trading is very important because it has to deal with money. And what gets people fired up more than money? Not much. All right, so the national government looked weak to other countries. When you can't all be together, you look weak, okay? If you're on a basketball team and you all can't share the ball or you all can't work together as a team, you look weak. You can't get the job done. Same thing when countries or states can't work together in one country. In 1787, Congress asked the states to send representatives to a meeting where revisions to the articles could be discussed. This is at the very bottom of page 36. Okay? Remember, press pause if I go too fast. All right, so there were some weaknesses in the Articles of Confederation that needed to be worked out. The national government had several weaknesses under the Articles of Confederation. For example, Congress had trouble passing laws because a vote of 9 of the 13 states was needed to pass important measures. Getting 9 states to agree to any change was very difficult. Okay, so had trouble passing laws. As we get farther along, we will talk about what it takes for a bill to become a law, but Congress passes those laws. Okay, a law does not come into effect unless Congress says so. So, during this time in our country, there was no president or executive branch. No one was there to make sure that the laws passed by Congress were carried out. So you could write the laws all day, but nobody was there to enforce them. Okay? There were no higher courts. I think that's how they word it. No national courts. Okay? So there was no one there to interpret the laws or judge those who broke them. So there was nobody to enforce it. So let's say it's illegal to speed. We know that, right? There's police officers who will give you a speeding ticket if you're going too fast. And then you go to court to see if that was, if you were guilty or not. Okay? If there was no one to enforce it and no one to judge it, are people going to follow those laws? No. Okay? So there was no president, there were no national courts, okay? And there was no money. Congress could not pay the country's debts or carry on any government activities that might be needed. Congress also could not pay the soldiers who had fought in the Revolutionary War. These limitations harmed relations with foreign nations and endangered Americans' national security. No money to pay the military. No money. Okay? We'll talk about where the government gets their money from now, okay? They couldn't pay their debts. Okay, so let's say you take out a loan for your car and you don't pay that car loan. Guess what? They're going to come take your car, okay? You have to pay your debts back. No money to pay the military? Guess what? Nobody's going to fight for your country. Alright, I have another video from our favorite viral history teacher, Mr. Betts. The Articles of Confederation, super fun song. You get to listen to it. I'll put it on Google Classroom. Alright, last thing you're going to do for notes, and then when you're done with this for today, you're good. You're going to write a summary, 2 to 3 sentences, about what you learned about in today's notes. Okay? You could talk about the Articles of Confederation, about how they didn't work. You could talk about the Declaration of Independence. Go back into your notes and see if you can find something that was interesting to you or something that you didn't realize. When you're done with that, you're done for today. You need to make sure you're quiet so others can finish. Follow Mrs. Bullock's orders. And if I get a good report, maybe we'll do something fun when I get back tomorrow. Okay? So, have fun.